Okay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Jeff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you are on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. And I'm just beyond thrilled today to have a conversation and introduce the newest inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Mr. Rod Argent of the legendary Zombies. Rod, congratulations on a long overdue honor, and welcome.
Well, hey, it's all I've got to say. Thank you so much. It really does feel like an honour, and we've been honoured enough to have been nominated for 4 out of the last 5 years, and that in itself has felt extraordinary. But to actually, pass the winning post, as it were, just feels like a huge satisfaction. It feels great.
Now, again, you guys have been eligible for many years, but over the last handful of years, you've been nominated pretty frequently. Did it ever make you wonder why for all those years you weren't nominated, and then the rush of nominations and finally getting in? Have you tried to make sense of it all, or is it just a matter of, we're in and this is amazing?
Well, it does make sense in a way, because one of the things that Colin and I are most proud of, we put a band together just after the turn of the century, this century, we did that for fun, honestly. We had I'd done pretty well out of writing over all the years, and I didn't actually have to do any of this to make money. So we went back on the road really for the love of playing, and because I just really felt the buzz of actually playing live on stage. I hadn't done that for quite a few years, even though I'd never been out of music. I'd been producing other artists, playing on other people's albums, etc., etc. But one of the things that we're most proud of is the fact this sort of second incarnation, if you like, of the Zombies has really built in such a satisfying way in the US, particularly. I mean, all around the world actually, but in the US. And I think that the fact that we more and more had attention given to us is a sign that what we've been doing has really worked, because we've done it to be successful, but to be successful in the sense of continuing to be able to write and create new stuff and get excited in exactly the same way that we did when we were 18 years old. We approach things exactly the same way. The energy on stage when we play is fantastic, and that feels like a real privilege. We find that we're playing to people of all ages, including quite a young component, which feels amazing and unlooked for originally. And I think that that more exaggerated attention on us has actually borne fruit, in the sense that the last few years have acknowledged, and I know that both Colin and I thought, well, my goodness, there's no way we're going to be nominated again. We've been nominated 3 times out of 4 years, and then they did. They nominated us again, and we both said, well, if we don't get in this time, that has to be it, surely. But right from the beginning in this campaign, the fan vote, I know it's only 1 out of 1,000 votes, but the fan vote was amazing, and it never let up throughout the whole month. We ended up with, 330,000 votes?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, we ended up 4th in the list. We actually overtook several people. It was extraordinary, and that made us feel warm inside, for a start, because there are all those people out there rooting for us. And then we got some lovely endorsements from some pretty iconic figures. So all that felt fantastic, and it did feel as if maybe, it's a bit like watching a football side, a soccer side, as you would say, building up the pressure, and you just feel like a goal's coming. And it really did have that feeling. Things were slotting into place, and we thought this year might be the year. But then a few just a day or two before the announcement, we suddenly had misgivings and we thought, oh, I don't know. It really feels to me as if this might be the same story, that we don't quite make it. But then we got the phone call, and we did, and it felt so satisfying. It was just a lovely thing.
Well, and it really does seem, from a fan perspective, like a reaction to this new version of the band. I mean, it was very organic. You guys have built it up from touring, from putting out great records. I mean, the records you guys are putting out are still vital and sound modern. And just, watching you come around the area of the Northeast United States, each time I see you come by, you're playing a bigger and bigger venue. So it really did feel like that build-up was coming.
Well, it really did feel like that. And, one of the things that knocked us out so much was at the end of 2015, when our last album, Still Got That Hunger, came out, we actually did get a phone call from Billboard. And Billboard said, we just wanted to let you know that for the first time in 50 years as the Zombies, you've got an album in the top 100 album sales chart. And honestly, we didn't think that was a possibility. And that just felt amazing. And that was so gratifying. It really, really was. I mean, we were only in there for 2 or 3 weeks, but around the bottom of it. But to actually make that top 100 with new stuff this far down the line felt so good. And even when we play the Odyssey and Oracle recreation gigs, which we do from time to time, right. In the first half, when we play a couple of tracks from that last album, they go down just as brilliantly as everything else. And you think that in itself is a real validation, the fact that we somehow are still managing to relate with what we're doing, what we're working on, and that is bearing fruit, and people are reacting to it. And that, to us, is the biggest buzz, actually.
Well, and I think a lot of that goes back to those original records, because when you go back and listen to them, they don't sound dated like a lot of the material that came out at that time. There's still a freshness sonically to those records, which I think is why new material fits in so well with it, because it doesn't sound like, okay, this is a song from 50 years ago, this is a song from now. It all does blend together really well in your set.
I think it does blend together, and it amazes me. There's a very sweet guy called C. Brian Jasper who puts out a show every week, or for a few months period, a zombie show, and it's a radio show where he plays all things zombies and related to zombies, like some Argent tracks, some solo Colin tracks as well, and he's really knowledgeable, and he includes tracks from all our new albums as well, and it is amazing how he can play, even with the sound of the things being 50 years apart. Sometimes he can play, I don't know, Time of the Season, or you can pick any of the early tracks, and then he can play, I don't know, maybe Moving On or something from the new album, or Edge of the Rainbow, and it just fits right in there. It really does. And I think one reason is that one of the things that we were fighting against in the early days was often that people in the industry didn't think we were commercial at all. That we were, I remember the same talk when She's Not There was first made. We don't really think this is commercial, but it's a good record, we'll put it out. And then the Time of the Season, it was the last gasp release from Odyssey and Oracle. No one saw it as being a commercial song. Because the thing was, we never thought in terms of what is a successful formula. You have to get to the hook in 45 seconds. You have to have a chorus. You have to have a middle eight, and then you have to have a repeat. None of those forms. We didn't think in that way. We just worked musically on something till it turned us on, and then we thought, well, if it turns us on, we've got a chance that if people hear it, it might turn somebody else on as well. And that's the way we did it. And in the short term, I think sometimes it meant that we had fights with record companies, and we had trouble getting things played initially. But in the long term, I do feel that sometimes it means that that early stuff hasn't dated quite as much as some of the contemporary stuff that were people that were our contemporaries at the time. Although, of course, that doesn't apply to everybody. I mean, there are other people that's true of too. But I think in the very long term, that's really worked for us, and I think it's working for our current stuff too.
Well, I think the other people that that's true for are also now contemporaries of yours in the Hall of Fame. I think that makes a big difference.
Yes,
And with the
absolutely.
zombies as well, I would imagine that one of the reasons why you had some pushback from record labels and even radio at the time, your format weren't a lot of British invasion bands with that piano player up front on stage, part of the band. Even the Stones. Ian was in back all the time. And it wasn't until after you guys where that really became the norm going forward, was to include piano with that guitar, bass, and drum. So it sounds like you guys really set the template for that.
Well, yeah, and it's so funny that people on television particularly did not understand at all what a piano was doing in a, inverted commas, rock and roll group. You know, it's guitars, you know, it's not a piano.
Right.
And on some of there are very few early videos of us, or TV performances that have been saved, of us, say, doing She's Not There or Time of the Season. And it's so funny, whenever you see She's Not There played, when it gets to the piano solo, the camera hones in on the drums. And you just see you playing the drums throughout my piano solo. It used to drive me mad. I mean, it's not that I wanted to be featured above everybody else, but I wouldn't have minded a bit of equality in there. And I remember seeing another one where, because I was on one side, they just had the the bass, guitar, drums, and Colin in shot. And I was completely out of the shot. You just saw the side of my piano. And I thought, you bastards, you know, I'm there. I wrote the bloody song, for instance, on those two anyway. I'm not. You can't even see me. You know, maybe that's what made it successful, though. I don't know. But
whenever there's something different, they don't know quite how to handle it yet.
No, exactly. That's always been the case, I think, really.
Yeah, and now getting back a bit to the Hall. This is a very British class, something really that the Hall of Fame hasn't seen in a very long time. Now, is the concept of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as culturally significant in England as it is here? Because I've heard other bands say how they're not really sure exactly what it is because it doesn't translate as well over there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know what, in some ways, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the interviews I've done over the last couple of days, people have thought it was a very big deal, you know, and so that's lovely, thank you. You know, for the one or two of the UK ones that I've done. But they're generally people in the know. It does seem quite fashionable over here to say, oh, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's a bit of fun, but it's, but not to take it that seriously. This is not true of everybody, but there is that feeling. It is a much bigger deal in America. I mean, and it's always been a big deal to us. It's always felt, because they're all my heroes. Right. I mean, American music was typified, the artists in American music were my heroes, almost all of them, apart from, say, the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles had a huge effect on us, as they did on everybody else. And they still do. I still listen to the new McCartney album, think it's fantastic. You know, he's so intuitive, so doing things for the right reason, not just to be commercial, but in the end that turned them into something that was more commercial than anything else in the world, because they communicated with people. But in the UK, it can be quite fashionable for people to say, oh, I don't really mind if we get in or not. You know, it's more for the fans. We've never felt like that, not in any way. It feels like, when I looked to America when I was in my teens, and I was in love with not only Elvis and Little Richard and Buddy Holly, which I certainly was in love with, but with people like Jimmy Smith, people like, particularly Miles Davis and the wonderful group we had around 1958. And Milestones was the first modern jazz album that I ever bought. And to think that and I was really, really knocked out and blown away with the early Ray Charles, all those wonderful rhythm and blues, soulful things that were going on. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Miles even is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And obviously Elvis, all those early heroes, and people right through the pantheon, you know, going through Clapton, and going through to people like Police, you know, much later on, who completely blew me away when they came out. You know, they're people that we've been put on the same page as now, and that feels like a very big deal indeed to me.
Well, it's funny. A little while back, I was talking with John Lodge of the Moody Blues, and you know, he was saying sort of what you were just talking about a little bit. How, you know, they were aware of it, but it didn't seem that big a deal until he got in. And my favorite line from talking with him was, it kind of hit him that, you know, his grandkids can walk through there and see him and what he did and his impact on music and on other people. And I thought that was just a great way of putting it.
Absolutely. We're at, you know, in 100 years' time, I mean, people may not remember much about this music, or they may, I don't know, but our names will be there. They will not be deleted. They won't be taken away. You know, people will look back, and there we are on the same page as these wonderful, iconic artists. And some of those wonderful, iconic artists, and particularly in the last few years, have been kind enough to endorse us and say lovely things about us as well, and to say that we've influenced them. People like Tom Petty, Dave Grohl, you know, just across the board. And many young emerging bands now are saying the same thing. And you know, that's beyond rubies, that really. I mean, it really is. You know, when you think that when Odyssey and Oracle came out all those years ago, it was pretty much totally ignored. Time of the Season became a number one. Incidentally, it became number one in Cashbox on March the 29th, 50 years from the March the 29th that's going to be the induction on.
That's pretty amazing.
Isn't that extraordinary? I mean, what a coincidence of dates.
Well, and I think the other big coincidence, you know, for me looking at this is one of your first U.S. gigs is the Zombies was in Brooklyn, and now it's going full circle, and that's where you're being inducted. So it's almost like, you know, all that time passed, but this is when it was meant to be.
It was an indelible memory for me coming over to the Brooklyn Fox, Christmas Day 1964, to play with some of our heroes, people like Benny King, the Shirelles, the Drifters. Chuck Jackson was he wasn't so much a hero then, although I got to really like him. Patti LaBelle, we were scared silly because we thought, how are we going to bring our version of American music over to America? They're going to just think we're, you know, five skinny white kids who are a complete pale imitation, you know. But they took us to their hearts. They really did. And it was fantastic. And I realized much later that by the time their music and what we loved came over to England, it went through an English filter. And what we thought was American, you know, us just bringing American music back to the Americans, it had very much its own feeling because of going through that creative filter and the different conditions musically and in every other way that there were in England. And it became something of its own. And they really did appreciate it and loved it. And I was so thankful for that. I mean, we had talk after talk in the Brooklyn Fox with Patti LaBelle, and she would turn us on to Aretha Franklin, said, you've got to check this new kid on the block out, Aretha. And she introduced us to the music of Nina Simone. And it was just invaluable. And she talked about the black churches, you know, and how we had to go to a black church, something we never did. You know, we were there at that time, and then we came over a year later in '65 and did a tour, a Dick Clark tour. and we never got around to that. I remember one night, we had some great experiences. I remember being taken to Sissy Houston's house by Dionne Warwick, with with the rest of the band, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
After the gig one night, we went round to Sissy Houston's place. Dionne Warwick took us there, and there was a little baby running around. And do you know what? I think that could have been Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
I think it's very possible that it was. So, some amazing snapshots in memory. Maybe some of them are remembered wrongly, but I don't know. It was a long, long time ago. But absolutely amazing.
And earlier you had mentioned Tom Petty, and you and Colin have talked about him a lot over the last 24 hours and what his friendship meant to you. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How did you guys meet, and what did you and Colin share with Tom that created that bond?
Well, we had a wonderful box set put together in 1997, and I can say that because I had nothing to do with putting it together. It was put together by Alec Palau, an Englishman who lives in America, and he was a huge fan, and he got the endorsement of Tom Petty to write. Tom Petty wrote, there was a wonderful booklet with it, and Tom Petty wrote a page at the front of it, a foreword to it, saying, if the zombies existed today, they would rule the world. He said that. I mean, it was just unequivocal, absolutely. And we later got to know him a little bit. We played a gig with him at Jackson Hole, and it knocked us out because we were all standing on the side of the stage. His band were playing the intro music, and he was running on. He turned around and saw us at the side, ran off again, and talked to us for about 3 minutes. and I thought, wow. But, he was really, really sweet, really lovely. And subsequently, we didn't see him very much, but he kept giving us lovely endorsements and name checks and everything. And then, towards the end of his life, we did get to know him, and we ended up going to his house in Malibu and spending some time with him. He came along to him and Ben Montench came along to one of our gigs on the tour that year and hung out with us afterwards. And we really got to know him a little bit personally, as well as all the wonderful things he said about us. And we had a great book put together by BMG and also our management company, the Rocks Management, and it blew us away. This book, and there was Tom Petty. At the beginning, he insisted on writing about us again, and it was so fantastic. He told us when we went to his house that the very first gig that he ever went to, a rock and roll gig, was on the Dick Clark tour in 1965, and he then told us our set list on that gig.
Oh wow!
And told us his reaction to songs, particularly when we did Summertime. It said it completely blew him away. He said it felt so different to anything else that was there, but so soulful. It was just lovely, and without any question, we would have asked him to induct us. I think that would have been unanimous, actually, but the poor dear guy has gone now. His wife came along to a recent gig. It was lovely to see her, and she put her arms around us and everything. That was really lovely. It was very, very, very nice.
Well, I think between you guys and Stevie Nicks, the spirit of Tom Petty will definitely be in Brooklyn on the 29th of March.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that night, have you and Colin talked at all? Is it going to be the surviving original members actually playing, or the new band, or a combination of both?
I don't think we have a choice. I think that, in a way, we really wanted the new guys to be doing it, because we've spent the last 20 years with them, or the last 19 years anyway, with them, and they've been brilliant, and they've given so much. But the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame were insistent when we were nominated that who they were nominating was the four original surviving guys. So, and anyway, it's great to play with them. That's fantastic. I'm not, dissing that at all. But what I would imagine would happen is that we would. We get 2 or 3 numbers, don't we? So I would think that we would. My thoughts at the moment are to do time of the season with the original guys, but with the added little bit of percussion played by Steve, our current drummer, and maybe a couple of the guys just vocally double tracking the chorus of Time of the Season, from It's the Time of the Season for Loving, just from that bit, so that you get a double track effect as it was on the original record, so that it can be very much in the way that we did it on the Conan show. I thought that was really successful. And then I would think maybe if we did She's Not There, what I would love to do, when we did the Odyssey and Oracle performances in the States recently, at the very end of the show, we would get our current drummer, Steve, we'd have 2 drum kits set up, and at the end of She's Not There, we would have a little bit of a blow where Hugh, our original drummer, and Steve, our current drummer, would trade licks. And it was really exciting and really good fun, and people loved it. So it would be lovely to involve them a little bit like that. Obviously, our current guitar player will be playing guitar because Paul died in 2004. So he would be on stage. And I would love then to get the other guy, which is our new bass player, Soren, to maybe just sing, because he's got a good voice too, just sing, a couple of the choruses with us. So that it's just an acknowledgement that we owe an awful lot to them, because I think without their contributing to the growth of the current band in the last few years, I don't think we would have had these nominations. Right.
That's what kept the band going all this time.
And built them and made it better and better. Yeah.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be at pretty much at every induction since 2012 and seen a lot of variations of bands going in. And there have been a lot where they have done exactly what you're saying, the original members augmented by the current. So hopefully that can be the case this time as well.
Well, I should really press for that. Yeah.
That would be fantastic. And I won't take up any more of your time. I thank you so much. I will definitely be there on March 29th cheering you on in Brooklyn. Can't wait to see you guys up there. It's been long deserved, and it couldn't happen to a nicer person. So thank you so much for your time. It's much appreciated.
Well, thank you.
Bessa, and one last thing, what's next for the Zombies? Will you guys be coming back to America again? A new record? Anything in the future? We've got to renew our visas because we were on a 3-year visa and it's going to run out soon. But we are, we've toured 5 times over the last 2 years in America, and America and Canada, and we start our next tour at the end of January, or the very beginning of February in 2019, and that I know from I hope to be able to concentrate to some degree on creating some. I've written one new song for the new album. I'm working on a couple of the beginnings of ideas for another couple. I very much hope that we can put an album together next year. Really looking forward to the idea of that. And I know that Chris, our manager, one half of our management company in America, has plans for the summer. And I don't quite know what those are yet, but I know he's already said yes to a couple of gigs at the beginning of 2020 in America. So it'll all go on, I'm sure, just as intensely as it has been. And thank whoever's above or whoever is on our side for that. Well, again, I thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you on the 29th. Hopefully you get a chance to say hello. And if not, I'll catch you on the road the next time you're back around America. So, again, congratulations, best of luck, and we will catch up to you soon.
Oh, thanks so much. And I'm sorry about the miscalculation of time earlier on.
Oh, no worries at all. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Bye bye.